Hi, I'm Jedi Master Josh. Thank you for joining me. Today I want to talk about the continuing saga of Brett Kavanaugh, the Kavanaughcalypse, if you will. It is upon us. All hell has broken loose. Brett Kavanaugh, of course, the person who was nominated to be a Supreme Court Justice by President Donald Trump. He is set to replace Justice Kennedy's seat. He is seen as a swing vote. So someone who made the decided vote to go one way or the other in many cases. So many people see this as a very important situation, a very important seat, and they are using this opportunity to basically cling on to various allegations that have now surrounded Brett Kavanaugh in an attempt to basically paint him as a drunk type of sexual assaulter / possible gang rapist. The media has gone overboard. The Democrats, in many cases, have gone completely overboard, and they have pushed it way too far, and they've taken it way beyond what would be reasonable. The result of this is that you have mass outrage, and that is on full display right now in the halls of Congress, where there are mass swarms of protesters running around, basically yelling at everybody. So here's a video of protesters yelling at Senator Orrin Hatch.
Why aren't you brave enough to talk to us and exchange it with us? Don't you wave your hand at me. I wave my hand at you.
When you grow up, Robinson.
When I grow up, how dare you talk to women that way? How dare you? How dare you? That's right. You just whistled it.
You gotta hold the door, ma'am. You're gonna get arrested.
You just arrested.
Senator, do you believe women?
That lady says, "You don't wave your hand at me, I wave my hand at you." So, there we have it. Angry, screaming women yelling at Orrin Hatch before he goes into an elevator. I'm sure that's definitely going to help their cause. It turns out that during this, several people have been arrested, one of which was apparently Amy Schumer, which I think is actually pretty darn hilarious, especially given the fact that I don't think Amy Schumer herself is actually funny. So, she is actually better at being funny unintentionally than when she's actually trying. So I got a little bit of amusement out of that. Definitely put a smile on my face. Mitch McConnell, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, came out and spoke about the protesters and the Kavanaugh confirmation in general. Here's a video of that.
For goodness sake, this is the United States of America. Nobody is supposed to be guilty until proven innocent. Our society is not a place where uncorroborated allegations of misconduct from nearly 40 years ago, allegations which are vigorously disputed, can nullify someone's career or destroy their reputation. Is that what the Senate's going to be known for? Your nomination comes up here, and we destroy your reputation. Time for us to stand up to this kind of thing. We owe it to the American people not to be intimidated by these tactics. We owe it to the American people to underscore that you're innocent until proven guilty. It's the Senate that's on trial here, Mr. President. Can we be scared by all these people rampaging through the halls, accosting members at airports, coming to their homes? They're trying to intimidate the Senate into defeating a good man. Are we going to allow this to happen in this country?
So that was Cocaine Mitch at his cocainiest. He just pulled a full-on Tony Montana just moments before, and he snorted rails of Covfefe, massive rails of Covfefe before he did that. That was Mitch McConnell as lively as he's ever been, and that's saying something. So the FBI has now been investigating Judge Brett Kavanaugh because, as a stipulation for voting him through the Senate Judiciary Committee process, Senator Jeff Flake the Republican, basically, sort of squishy Republican, you could say, one of the squishy Republicans out there, basically said that he wanted a FBI investigation before he would cast his vote to move forward with the nomination process. That prompted a FBI investigation to follow, which was ordered by the president. That investigation went for 5 days. I think it's worth noting that Hillary Clinton had her 700,000 emails apparently looked at by the FBI within 12 hours, and that was just fine. But let's forget about that. The FBI found no corroborating evidence of any of the allegations. The two allegations that they looked into were the allegations of Christine Blasey Ford and the allegations of Deborah Ramirez. The FBI interviewed 9 people, and they got 1 written testimony in regards to those 2 allegations. The Democrats are coming out and saying that it was not a thorough investigation, that they didn't cover enough ground, and they're saying that based on several different instances. So, one is that Dr. Ford and Brett Kavanaugh actually weren't interviewed. The reason that they weren't interviewed is because they've already, through hours of sworn testimony in the Senate, being questioned by every senator, and also the lady that was brought in by on the Republican side, the sex crimes prosecutor, Andrea Mitchell, to look into the claim, to question Mrs. Ford. So they have all the information on record under penalty of perjury that they basically need already. There was no need to investigate, to interview either of those 2 people further unless there was new additional information that came forward, new corroborating claims, of which the FBI found no corroborating evidence. There was no new information that came up. There was no reason to interview them. The Democrats also point out that other individuals were not interviewed. And that is illustrated with this article, this headline from The Hill, which I believe they have actually changed the headline of at this point. Or this may have not actually been the actual headline. This might have just been what they tweeted with a link to the article. Just doing a little correction on the go there. So Ford's attorneys, it says here, Ford's attorneys sent the FBI a list of 8 more witnesses who were never contacted in the Kavanaugh investigation. The only problem is, when you read the story, it turns out that none of them are actually witnesses. They are all friends of hers that she allegedly told this story 35 years later. That's not a witness. I now want to go to an article from The New Yorker, which got interviews from several classmates of Brett Kavanaugh and compiled information from several classmates of Brett Kavanaugh, individuals who were not interviewed by the FBI. And they put it forward as something that's troubling. The headline goes, "The FBI probe ignored testimonies from former classmates of Kavanaugh." The story begins talking about Deborah Ramirez, who claims that Brett Kavanaugh exposed himself to her at a party. She was interviewed by the FBI, but she says that corroborating witnesses were not contacted. One of the corroborating witnesses that they highlight is a man named Kenneth G. Appold. He went to Yale with Kavanaugh, and they were apparently suite mates at the time of the incident. They were in the same suite together. Appold, the article says, said that he was, quote, 100% certain that he was told that Kavanaugh was the male student who exposed himself to Ramirez. He said he never discussed the allegation with Ramirez, whom he said he barely knew in college, but he recalled details, which he said an eyewitness described to him at the time that match Ramirez's memory of what happened. "I can corroborate Debbie's account," he said in an interview. "I believe her because it matches the same story I heard 35 years ago, although the two of us have never talked." The article then goes on to say that he recalled telling his graduate school roommate about the incident in 1989 or 1990. So this is somebody who was at Yale at the time of this incident, and he supposedly heard from somebody that this actually happened. The story then goes on and says, Appold said that he initially asked to remain anonymous because he hoped to make first contact with the classmate who, to the best of his recollection, told him about the party and was an eyewitness to the incident. He said that he had not been able to get a response from that person despite multiple attempts to do so. And then, in one basically throwaway sentence at the end of this paragraph, it says, the New Yorker reached the classmate. They actually got a hold of him. But he said that he had no memory of the incident. So they highlight the fact that the guy heard it from somebody, and that he told his roommate that he heard it from somebody. But then when they contact the guy that they said they heard it from, or he says he heard it from, the guy says he doesn't actually remember it. That would be a pretty key detail, but of course it's just one sentence in this story. So it then goes on to highlight two high school acquaintances of Brett Kavanaugh who have submitted sworn declarations to senators and to the FBI. These are people who were not interviewed. What it basically amounts to, these testimonies, is that Brett Kavanaugh was basically a dick in high school and that he liked to drink a lot of beer. Really, that's basically what it amounts to. One of the acquaintances says that Brett Kavanaugh basically stood by while his jock friends bullied people. It doesn't even say that he himself actually partook in any of the bullying, just that he stood aside and witnessed it, which, sure, that's not great, but just, not exactly the kind of thing that would disqualify somebody for being a Supreme Court justice. And one of the other the other acquaintance then describes how much beer that he remembers Brett Kavanaugh at least bragging about drinking, but not necessarily seeing him do it necessarily. And then the one claim that is almost a little bit questionable that they throw in here on Brett Kavanaugh's side. I mean, they're all pretty questionable if you ask me. Is the controversy surrounding Renate alumnus, however it's pronounced. Apparently, this phrase was put in Brett Kavanaugh's yearbook, and it supposedly referred to this woman who was a friend of Brett Kavanaugh's circle of friends, part of their circle of friends, and he put that in his yearbook, and it supposedly meant somehow that he was basically having sex with her, and the idea was that multiple people were basically having sex with her, and they were part of the alumnus or whatever. So in his sworn testimony, he said, quote, "She was a great friend of ours. We, a bunch of us, went to dances with her. She hung out with us as a group." He said that a, quote, "media circus has been generated by this, though, and reported that it referred to sex. It did not." So, this friend has, or not this friend, this acquaintance, again, has come out and now said that, he feels like that did actually basically refer to sex. It did refer to him at least bragging about having sex or boasting about having sex. It's very possible that he was lying. He didn't actually have sex with her, but it's probably true that he did put that as a sort of boast or a sort of brag. It's certainly, it's not classy, that's for sure, but you're talking about high school kids here. So that might have possibly been misleading. That wouldn't be grounds for perjury, and it's not actually material to the case, though. So, the Democrats, in the wake of all of this, say that, of course, the investigation was rushed, that it was pushed forward too quickly. Senator Dianne Feinstein and Chuck Schumer criticized the, quote, "incomplete FBI report on Kavanaugh." Dr. Ford's lawyer, Deborah Katz, released a statement saying, quote, "An FBI supplemental background investigation that did not include an interview of Dr. Christine Blasey Ford, nor the witness who corroborate her testimony, cannot be called an investigation. We are profoundly disappointed that after the tremendous sacrifice she made in coming forward, those directing the FBI investigation were not interested in seeking the truth." Again, the 8 people that supposedly on Christine Blasey Ford's side did not get interviewed are 8 people who were not witnesses. They were people that she supposedly told, again, 35 years later. That doesn't have any sort of real weight to it. That doesn't really prove anything. That just proves that she told her friends. I mean, everybody heard about this, 35 years later. That doesn't make us witnesses to it either. It's just, you got to be specific about these things. A witness is somebody who actually witnessed it. I mean, it's pretty clear what a witness is. The FBI did interview the witnesses. There were only 4 people, or 4 or 5. The numbers have kind of changed around a bit. There was only a handful of people that were actually at that party that she says happened. All of those people have said that either they don't remember that party or that it didn't happen at all. So there are no witnesses aside from those people who, again, have already provided their testimony. So that claim just doesn't really hold up. Senator Blumenthal came out and said that the FBI participated in a cover-up. Senator Macy Hirono, who says that all men just need to shut up, came out and said that this investigation was a farce. So the Democrats are not happy about this. They were never going to be happy about this. They don't have any. They don't have any situation. There's no situation where they are going to actually vote for Brett Kavanaugh, where they're going to support Brett Kavanaugh. They are completely against him. Many of these people have been against him since he was first put up, as a nominee. And that's not going to change. So what's going on is, again, it's a delay tactic. That's what this whole situation has been ever since Dianne Feinstein waited for 6 weeks on the allegations that she was given by Dr. Ford. She waited on those allegations for 6 weeks and then decided to drop them at the 11th hour to put a monkey wrench into the whole process, because they knew somebody that was well qualified was going to actually be confirmed. So they pulled this sort of charade at the last minute to try to stall it as long as possible. And now we've had an FBI investigation, and of course, it's not good enough. You see all these other random accusations, this craziness. I mean, the bar, the floor has been broke through. I mean, the lows that some people in the Democratic side, some people in the media will stoop to try to go after Brett Kavanaugh is truly astounding. You've got articles being written about Brett Kavanaugh supposedly throwing ice cubes in a bar fight, like that's supposed to be some bombshell. There was this ridiculous spectacle during the whole situation where Brett Kavanaugh was testifying to the senators, where Sheldon Whitehouse, the senator, asked him ridiculous things from his yearbook, one of which was about this drinking game apparently called the Devil's Triangle. And there's this conspiracy really out there that Devil's Triangle is actually some sort of sexual act between 3 people, and that he basically, that was true then, and he knew it, and he lied. Well, now we've actually got 6 classmates of Brett Kavanaugh at the time who have come out and corroborated that indeed the Devil's Triangle is in fact a drinking game. And look, it might mean multiple things. It might have even meant that to some people back then. That doesn't mean it meant that to them. And people are really grasping at straws here. So the new thing that they're trying to shift for, because really a lot of these claims against Brett Kavanaugh have really fallen apart at this point. is they're trying to say that Brett Kavanaugh was basically just too angry. He was too angry and that he drinks too much. They try to say that he's too angry because during his testimony, he was fired up and that he was pretty fiery towards some of the senators. So basically, this is how it goes. We're going to accuse you of rape, in some cases gang rape. We're going to basically destroy your whole life and your family's life and your entire reputation. And then when you get ticked off about it, like anybody would, we're going to say, whoa, you mad, bro? The whole idea that he doesn't deserve to be indignant in this situation is just truly ridiculous. Truly ridiculous that people can try to put on a straight face and say that if they were in that situation that they wouldn't be a little fiery. And it's worth pointing out that you didn't see all this, moral posturing. You didn't see all this righteous indignation from people when Barack Obama came out and admitted that he, in fact, back in his youth, got into fights. He drank too much. There's a video of it. I'll play it for you.
Yeah, I think I was a thug for a big part of my growing up. I played a lot of basketball. I didn't take school that seriously. I got into fights. I drank and did and consumed substances that weren't always legal, but my behavior was self-destructive. I might drink a six-pack in an hour before going back to class, things like that.
Obama has also admitted that he did cocaine in his youth. And by the way, I don't think that should disqualify someone from being the president. I don't think it should disqualify someone. And by the way, we're not talking about cocaine here. We're talking about somebody who, yes, did drink quite a bit. He even admitted to that much in his testimony. Brett Kavanaugh did. So this double standard is truly glaring, and it truly exposes people for the hypocrites that they are. Now, an ex-boyfriend of Dr. Blasey Ford, has now come out and said that Dr. Blasey Ford actually coached a friend of hers on how to pass a polygraph test. This is actually pretty darn key because during the testimony, Blasey Ford, under penalty of perjury, said in fact and was questioned quite directly on the about polygraphs. She said very clearly that she has never coached anybody on a polygraph. This is now being contradicted under oath by an ex-boyfriend of hers. So obviously one of them is lying, and that's something that needs to be investigated. It's something that needs to be looked into. Because people really want to pretend like they're setting this moral line that you can't lie to the Senate Judiciary, or you can't lie to the Senate when you're under oath. You can't lie under oath no matter what it's about. Well, that would actually be a pretty darn important thing that she lied about, very willingly under oath. And justice needs to be blind. Now, this whole situation has actually been, in many ways, good for Republicans. So there's a new poll out, and this is from NPR, that says, amid Kavanaugh confirmation battle, Democratic enthusiasm edge evaporates. And it goes on to say, just over a month away from critical elections across the country, the wide Democratic enthusiasm advantage that has defined the 2018 campaign up to this point has disappeared, according to a new NPR PBS NewsHour Marist poll. In July, there was a 10-point gap between the number of Democrats and Republicans saying the November elections were, quote, very important. Now that is down to 2 points, a statistical tie. Democrats' advantage on the party's candidate they are more likely to support has also been cut in half since last month. Democrats still retain a 6-point edge on that question, but it was 12 points after a Marist poll conducted just in mid-September. So that's a big dip. That's a big dip for them. Well, not a big dip, rather. It's a big surge for the Republicans. in the enthusiasm and which candidate they're more likely to support. So this has really lit a fire under Republicans in many ways, and the Republican. The Republicans in the Senate it's real close. We can only lose one senator. We only have 51 senators currently that are Republican. So we can only lose one senator to get 50 to have 50 votes, and then Mike Pence, the VP, could be the tie-breaking vote. And there were several undecided GOP senators, but now it seems after this investigation, two of those key senators, Senator Susan Collins and Senator Jeff Flake, the one who started this whole investigation, FBI investigation, basically in the first place, are now saying that the investigation is very, very thorough. So it seems very likely that that they are indeed going to vote yes to confirm Judge Kavanaugh. And now, signing her death warrant politically, Heidi Heitkamp, a Democrat in a red state, a state that Trump won, who's coming up for re-election, announced that she is actually not going to vote for Kavanaugh. She's going to vote against Kavanaugh. This means trouble for her, for sure. She is now falling behind by more than 8 points, according to Real Clear Politics average, and that was before she came out against Kavanaugh. According to a poll from Strategic Research Associates and a local NBC affiliate, North Dakotans support the nominee, Brett Kavanaugh, 60 to 27%. So, with her confirming that she's not going to vote for him, she basically signed her political death warrant. And this is actually proving to be good politically for Republicans in that case. It seems like they're probably going to be able to have the votes, which honestly, if they're already going to have the votes on the GOP side. So that means that any of these red state Democrats who are still undecided, if they're not going to be the deciding vote, because I think if they're going to be that 51st vote, they probably wouldn't do it. But if he's going to be confirmed anyways, it would be wise to vote to confirm Judge Kavanaugh as well, because your vote's not actually going to matter, and it could very well save your political career. But I'm not one to give advice to the Democrats. So I just want to end this by saying that mob rule cannot win the day. Mob rule will not win the day. Judge Kavanaugh has actually been treated very unfairly in this entire process. He and his family have gone through hell. And don't get me wrong, Christine Blasey Ford has gone through hell too. She is a victim of the Democrats. She's a victim of the Democrats holding on to her allegation, not taking it serious, using it as a political tool, and of apparently her lawyers now, apparently her lawyers were the ones that leaked that information in the first place. So this has been a whole charade to basically try to win politically by whatever means necessary. It's been a truly despicable stunt. And at the end, mob rule will not win the day. At the end of the day, Judge Kavanaugh, either Saturday or Sunday, after Friday's cloture vote and that 30-hour delay, is going to become the next Supreme Court justice, replacing Justice Kennedy. It's going to happen, and the leftist tears are going to flow, and they will be aplenty. So, with that, I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you learned something. Hope you found it informative. If you did, please like, please subscribe, please share. You know the drill. With that, I hope you have a wonderful day, and may the force be with you.